Hey folks, so today we're going to do a little bit of review for lines, for linear functions. So think way back to the beginning of this year. This is kind of where we started. And we're going to do a review now because it's going to come up in some situational problems. So remember that the equation of the line, or the rule of a line, is y equals ax plus b. So if in a question we're not given the rule, the first step is always to find it. So we need to figure out what A is, and we need to figure out what B is. And there are two formulas to do that, right? A is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Now note, when we talk about A for different equations, right, we were looking at quadratics, we were looking at exponentials. The way that we find A is different depending on what function we're looking at. So it's going to be really important when you're doing some situationals to know, are we talking about a line? Does the question say the word linear or line, right? Or does it say exponential or something like that? Because these equations will change depending on what kind of graph we're looking at. So here are the two equations to find A and to find B. B is y minus ax. And then we write the rule. We write the equation replacing A and B with the numbers that we just found. Once we have that, we can move on and figure out what we need to solve for. So is the question asking us to solve for x, or is it asking us to solve for y? So if we have x and we need to find y, we use our formula, right? We use the rule that we just found. We replace x with the number that was given, and we do our multiplication and our addition. If we have y and we need x, we can use this formula. It has the algebra already done for you. And then we'll replace y with the number that was given, and that will give us x. The other question that we might get when it comes to lines is to find where two lines cross each other. So if we're given two rules, or if we're given two equations, we'll need to use a systems of equations to solve. And that was where we were using like comparison or elimination or substitution. So we'll look at a couple of those examples as well. And this sheet will be really handy for a memory aid. So let's look at our first example. A line passes through the points -2, 3, and 6, -1. Find the rule of the line, and determine the value of y when x equals 3. Well, just like it says in the question, our first step is going to be to find the rule of a line. So we need A and we need B. So if we remember our formulas, A is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And we can label these points. Remember, when we're labeling points, the first number is x, the second number is y, which means this is x and this is y. And let's call this point 1, so these get little 1s by it, and these get little 2s by it. And it doesn't matter which one is 1 and which one is 2, as long as the 1s are together and the 2s are together. So let's replace these numbers, these letters, the x's and the y's, with the numbers that were given here. y2 is -1 minus y1, which is 3, divided by x2, 6, minus x1, -2. And this is going to give us -1 minus 3 is a -4. And 6 minus a -2 is going to be 8. And so this, if you want to turn it into a decimal, you definitely can, is the same thing as -0.5. So we know A is -0.5. We also need to find B, so that's our next step. And remember, we can find B by using y minus ax. So B is, we can use either of these points. We can either use our 1s, our x1 and our y1, or our 2s, our x2 and our y2. And it doesn't matter as long as we use one pair. So let's use our first pair. b equals y, 3, minus a, which is negative 0.5, times x, which is negative 2. So b equals 3 minus, we have a negative 0.5 times a negative 2, which is a positive 1. So b is 3 minus 1, which is 2. So we need to write our rule. Remember, y equals ax plus b. Well, we just figured out what a and b are. So instead of writing a, we can write negative 0.5. We still write our x. And then instead of b, we write 2. So all I've done is I've replaced a and b with the numbers we found, and I left x and y as x and y. So this, if a question just says find the rule, this is it. This is what you need to do. This is your answer right here. If, though, we have a second question, right? Determine the value of y when x is 3. We need to use this rule. And we know that x is 3. So let's rewrite it. Y equals negative 0.5 times x plus 2. Well, now we know that x is 3. So we can replace x with our number. Y equals negative 0.5 times 3 plus 2. And we can put this into our calculator. And negative 0.5 times 3 is negative 1.5 plus 2. So y would equal 0.5. So there's our answer. What is the value of y when x equals 3? Y equals 0.5. So those are your steps. And now let's take a look at another example that's a little bit different. And it asks for something that's a little bit different as well, but we're still going to follow the exact same steps. So here's our next example. We have a line, it passes through the point 3,5, and it has a slope of 2. We're told that it has a slope of 2. We need to find the rule of the line and determine the value of x when y is 5. Well, here are some things to remember, right? We need to find a and b, right? That's what we always need to do. We need to find a and b. A, remember, is the slope. So we don't have to do any calculations, which is great because we aren't given 2 points. We're told that the slope is 2, which means a has to equal 2. So we don't even have to do our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 because we're told in the question what a is. So we know a, we still have to find b. And like always, b is y minus ax. So we do have a point, right? Here's x and here's y. So b is y, 5, minus a, which is 2, times x, which is 3. So b is, you can put this in your calculator or you can do it in steps. 2 times 3 is 6. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. So remember, we always write our rule, y equals ax plus b. We replace a and b with the numbers. So y equals a is 2, and b is negative 1. And we can either write this as plus negative 1, or we can write it as 2x minus 1. This is a little bit neater. Okay? So we've done it. We've written the rule. And now the question says, determine the value of x when y is 5. And we can do this one of 2 ways. So I'll show you both ways, and you can use whichever one you like best. We can use this one formula, y equals 2x minus 1. We know that y is 5, so instead of writing y, we'll write 5. And we'll do a little bit of algebra. We'll add 1 to both sides. And then we'll divide both sides by 2. Okay, so this is nice because it's using the same formula. You have to do a little bit of algebra, but it's not too bad. If you want to kind of skip some of the algebra, I've given you a formula to find x. And that formula you can see above on your paper was x equals y minus b divided by a. So we can use this, x equals, we know that y is 5. Our question tells us that y is 5. 5 minus b minus a negative 1 over a 2. And again, you can put this in your calculator or you can do it in steps. 5 minus a negative 1 is 6. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So either way, we get the same answer. And you can use whichever method you like best. So that's what happens if we're talking about one line and we need to solve for x or we need to solve for y. But we might be given 2 lines, or we might be asked about 2 lines, and we might be interested in where those 2 lines cross. And that's using our systems of equations. So let's take a look at a couple of those examples as well. So here we go. There are 2 lines. It's great because the question starts by telling us we have 2 lines. And anytime you see a question that starts by telling us that there are 2 lines, right, we know that we're looking at a system of equations. What that means is we need to find 2 equations. We need to find the equations of both lines. Well, we're given one of them. Right, here we are, y equals 3x plus 4. That's great. Okay, so this is one line, but we need our second line as well. The second line passes through 2 points. So, just like before, we need the equation. We can't do anything until we have the equation of the second line. So to find the equation, we need a and we need b. Remember, a is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And we can call this x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. So let's plug in our numbers and solve. y2 is 6 minus y1 is 14 divided by x2, 4, minus x1, 0. 6 minus 14 is a negative 8. 4 minus 0 is 4. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. We also need to find b, right? To find the equation of any line, we need a and we need b. So remember, b is y minus ax, and we can use either these points, our 1s or our 2s. Let's use our 1s. Y is 14 minus a, which is negative 2, times x, which is 0. So b is negative 2 times 0 is just 0, so b is 14. So our equation 2 is y equals negative 2x plus 14. So there's our second equation. So here's equation 1, here's equation 2. Where do these lines cross? We're going to have to think back a little bit. And we can use comparison or substitution or elimination. Here's what I like. Because these are both already y is all by itself on this side, I really like using comparison. And this only works, remember, if y is already by itself. And if y is already by itself, we can take what's on the right-hand side of this equation and what's on the right-hand side of this equation and make a new equation where these two things are equal to each other. So we'll start with this. Let's write 3x plus 4, that's what's on the right-hand side over here, equals negative 2x plus 14. And this is called comparison because we're comparing these two sides. Now we do need to use some algebra. We need to get our x's on one side, our numbers on the other side, and then solve for x. So let's get all of our x's on the left-hand side. So let's add 2x to both sides. That'll give us 5x. We still have this plus 4. Negative 2x plus 2x is 0, right? But we still have this 14. And so then let's get rid of this 4. Let's subtract 4 from both sides. And we're left with 5x. This becomes 0. 14 minus 4 is 10. And then finally, we can divide both sides by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So we're almost done. We know what our x is. This is where the two lines cross. They cross when x is 2, and we need to figure out what the y is. And we can use either our first equation or our second equation to do that. So let's use our first equation. Y equals 3x plus 4, which is great. We want to know what y is. We know that x is 2. So instead of writing x, we'll write 2. And then we'll do our multiplication and our addition. You can put this in a calculator. 3 times 2 is 6. Y is 10. So the question says, where do the two lines cross? The two lines cross at the point 2, right? We always write our x first. 10. Let's take a look at one more question, a different way that we might see a system of equations. And we've seen questions like this before, but it has been a while. So a small theater is putting on a play. They sell adult tickets and youth tickets. So there are two different things going on. The table below shows the number of each ticket sold and the total money the theater earned on 2 different days. And let's see, we probably need a question in here. How much did each type of ticket cost? Right, so how much did an adult ticket cost and how much did a youth ticket cost? So remember when we were doing this, one of the things that we did was we just kind of wrote these as x's and these as y's, and then we put in our equals sign. Hopefully this is coming back to you a little bit. So this is our first equation and this is our second equation. And let's write them. We have 8x plus 4y equals 58. And we have 12x plus 5y equals $83.50. Now remember when we got to this point, we had to do some multiplication. So we're going to multiply everything up here by what's in front of the x down here. So let's write a times 12. And let's multiply everything down here by the negative of what's up here. So this is 8. Instead of just writing times 8, let's write times negative 8. And we're going to multiply every single number by 12, and we're going to multiply every single number by negative 8. And we're going to rewrite our equations. So let's start writing. Let's see, we have 8x times 12. 8 times 12 is 96, so this becomes 96x plus 4 times 12. 48y equals 58 times 12, which is 696. So we multiplied every number here by our 12. And now we're going to multiply every number here by our negative 8. So 12 times negative 8 is negative 96x. 5 times negative 8 is negative 40y. And 8350 times negative 8 is negative 668. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend we're just going to kind of add straight down. Right? 96 minus 96 is 0, so our x's go away. Okay? And using this to solve, right, our x's or whatever's our first letter, those will always go away. 48y minus 40y leaves us with 8y. And then there's our equal sign. We can't forget about our equal sign. 696 minus 668 is 28. We want y all by itself, so let's divide by 8. 28 divided by 8 is 3.5. Well, y is our youth tickets, so that means our youth tickets cost $3.5, and we typically write that as $3, and not just a 5, but we add our 0. So our youth tickets cost $3.50. Well, we want to know the cost of the adult tickets as well. So we can take either of our first equations, right? We can either take 8x plus 4y equals 58, or 12x plus 5y equals 8350. Let's take the top one. 8x plus 4y equals 58. Well, now we know what y is. We have a number for y. Y is 3.5, or $3.50. So let's replace the y with the number that it actually is. Let's do our multiplication. 3.5 times 4 is 14. So 8x plus 14 is 58. And now we have some algebra. We want to get x all by itself. So let's subtract 14. And we get 8x equals 58 minus 14 is 44. Divide both sides by 8. And we get 5.5. X, our adult tickets, see how these x's are with our adult tickets? So our adult tickets are 5.5, or if we are writing it in terms of money, $5.50. So we usually write a sentence to conclude, right? Adult tickets cost $5.50. Youth tickets cost $3.50. So hopefully that brings back some memories for you. Keep this around, and when we meet tomorrow, you can definitely ask questions if you have any.